This episode of Massive Iron Live is brought to you by Purple Monster. What's going on, guys? It's Friday, 3-day weekend here in America. Are we ready to get this on? Welcome to Massive Iron Live, the longest running lifting podcast in the history of the universe. That's my claim. And feel free to put together a meta-analysis to see if it's correct. I don't care. I've been here forever, and I will stay here forever. We're not going anywhere. Thank you for joining in. Massive Iron Live every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. We do a lifting and nutrition Q&A. So if you are new here, come back every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. I would love to have you join me and answer your questions. Feel free to post up your question. Doesn't matter if it's been asked a million times before. We are here to help. So drop a question, comment, general thought, hot take. If you have a lifting video you want us to check live, just drop that YouTube link in here and we'll take a look. So guys, hope you guys are doing great. I'm going to update you how my training is going. Before I do so, if your question is not going through, try shortening it. Try rewording it. Sometimes longer questions don't go through on the YouTubes. And sometimes if you put in a naughty word or a filtered, for some reason, YouTube doesn't like certain words. So just keep an eyeball on that. So really quick, 3-day weekend in America. I'm taking a rare 3-day weekend, rare day off in coaching. Coaching is what I do for a living. And if you guys are interested in help, please head over to my website and check out the coaching tab. I would love to help you. Coaching is what I do full time. I have an army of lifters. I was the online coach of the year in 2023 by the world's largest training app, Trainerize. The next year I was in the top 4. They didn't let me win again, which is perfectly fine. But seriously, though, if you need help, please don't hesitate to reach out. Also, on my website, I offer a custom workout service. Hands down, my most popular service outside of coaching. You can head over here and just hit custom in the search bar area. And for only $39, I will build you a custom workout based on your split preferences, your equipment, your injury history, everything. It's not cookie cutter nonsense. So check that out. My training has been going exceptionally well the last month. My diet's going well. Everything is really going extremely well in my world. And I'm super happy. I'm in a really good groove with training. Today is leg day. And I've been, my cutting diet is deep into week 3. That's going really well. I feel just in a really good place. Since I moved here, just basically over the last 5 years, since the pandemic hit and then the fallout and then moving a couple of times, it's been really hard. And that's not an excuse. It's just been really hard for me to get into a good groove. But I'm in a good groove right now. Outside of that, I started Jiu-Jitsu on Wednesday. I wasn't sure how it would go. I mean, it's been a long time since I rolled on the floor. I just didn't know how it would go, but it actually went a lot better than I expected. And I'm excited to return again. I'm going to be back in tomorrow. I'm going to try to go 2 times a week. So that is going well. I'll keep you guys updated. One thing I will not let anything do is get in the way of my lifting. Lifting is my A1. And as long as it's working well with lifting, we're good to go. I mean, my recovery was fine on Thursday. Yesterday, I did a shoulder workout. Feel good. So let's just see what happens. All right, guys, let's dive in. I just want to say, as an opening, I just want to thank all of my existing clients for putting their trust in me, for giving me the opportunity. More than any time in the past with coaching, I have a lot of very, very long-term clients more than ever. I was looking back last night. I had a free hour of time. And I realized just the average time my current client is with me is pretty substantial, well over 18 months. I just want to thank you guys. Digging in the long run is very fulfilling. We can get a lot done. And just to thank you to everyone. Let's dive in. Big Joe B, speaking of clients, how's it going, Joe? Hope you have a good weekend planned. Stephen T. Massive. When is it time to have a movement? When is it time to have a movement specifically in isolation out of rotation because you are plateauing? Well, this is a tough question to answer, and I'm not going to be dismissive, but the inherent nature of more isolation type of exercises is that you are going to hit a soft wall more quickly. Things like dumbbell flies and cable crossovers and side lateral raises, you're going to hit a soft wall more quickly, right? That's just the nature of the business with these types of exercise. Every exercise is going to be different, obviously. So when it comes to hitting these soft walls, we need to understand we're not doing anything wrong. Now, what I often stress, or what I like to stress, is, you want to have a good selection of exercises with a good progression opportunity. With that said, it's okay to have one exercise in the mix per body part per week that is more of a slow progressor. You don't need everything that is bringing the hammer of doom, as far as progressive overload. You can use an exercise like this more in the role of a finisher. But I would say if you get frustrated with the exercise, simply put something else in differently. It doesn't even need to be a different exercise. For example, let's say your dumbbell fly or your side lateral raise is just hitting that soft wall and it's not progressing much. You could put in what I did last night, a partial lateral and full lateral superset. You could do something like that. You could work in 30 or 40 rep rest pause sets on these types of exercises. You could put in just straight rest pause work. You could use them as a pre-fatigue tool. Does pre-fatigue help a lot? Well, in the scientific literature, there's not a lot of evidence to support it, but then again, hard training is always inherently a good thing. So I would say that even in a pre-fatigue role, there's nothing wrong with pre-fatiguing if you feel it provides benefit. But there's a lot of ways to use isolation exercises where we can kick them up a notch or do finishers, with more volume or rest pause, or, as part of a progression or regression or whatever. So the key thing is, if mentally you're just over it a little bit, take a break, go do something similar. If you're tired of laterals, do bulldozer laterals. If you're tired of laterals, do machine laterals. If you're tired of every form of lateral, do an upright row. A slow progressor, you have the freedom to mess around with, and you don't have to keep it in the workout. But the one thing you do need to understand is that a slow progressor is a slow progressor, and you can't change it into something else. You often see folks chasing weight on like a side lateral to the point where they're just getting obscene with their English or cheating. And to a degree, doing some semi-cheating or English on a side lateral isn't the worst thing, but, it has to be in the right context. In any case, just know the battle you're fighting with exercises. If you have extra energy for a beefier exercise to put in the mix to replace that isolation, you can do it. But as long as you have a good base of quality exercises that have a progression opportunity during the week, you don't have to panic about that little last exercise. And thank you. I appreciate that. Rico, good to see you, Rico. Thanks for tuning in. Big Jeffrey, good morning, Team Massive. Happy Friday. What are your thoughts on carb cycling? Uh, what I'm about to say, I'm going to add a caveat. There's no inherent benefit, and here's the caveat, unless you find a benefit. Okay. So there's no inherent benefit to carb cycling, meaning it's not magic. Cycling carbohydrates in a cut is not going to speed up fat loss. If your calories are varying and your calorie average is rising, then it's going to potentially slow down fat loss. So this sounds like doom and gloom, but in the real world of fat loss, we have to remember that we have to do what it takes to get the fat off. And cycling calories between a lower day and a smaller deficit is perfectly acceptable as long as it keeps you in the sustainability lane. Does that make sense? So we want to make sure you don't pick up cutting diet fatigue. So if this is helping you prolong or push back on diet fatigue, then use it. If you want to have a slightly higher carb day, the day before a big workout, or even the day of a big workout like squats or deadlifts, you can certainly do so. Maybe 4 hours before squats or deadlifts, you want to add in 100 more grams of carbs, which is 400 calories. Or maybe you want to add in 25 more grams a couple hours before, and then have 75 more grams of carbs after the workout because you feel more fresh. That is perfectly fine as long as your cut is sustainable, as long as your calorie average is reasonable and you are losing weight at the rate you want to lose it. And the final point, that you understand that it's not magic and it is not going to expedite fat loss. Big Ernie P. How's it going, Ernie? Thanks for tuning in. Richard, greetings. Happy Friday. What do you think about varying exercises to avoid injuries? That's not specifically going to be magic for avoiding injuries. So, I mean, adding in variety is good, for a number of reasons, and we don't need to rehash all that. It's good to have different forms of stimulus to attack a muscle over the course of a week or 2 weeks, and it can be good mentally. The only time you're really at risk for overuse injury is if you're really just putting in too much work on one specific exercise. If you're not overworking a single movement, there's very minimal injury related issues. So it's nothing to worry about. If you find one exercise is particularly bothersome and it is causing some issues, then you could, in that situation, rotate it out every other week. That would be fine. You can also rotate repetition range every other week, do a form of, micro periodization. That's perfectly fine as well. How is the development of the Savage protocol going? The PDF itself is done. I just want to add in some bells and whistles. I'll try to get it done this weekend. By that, I mean, when I put out a PDF, I don't just want it to be 3 pages of workouts anymore. I want to put in bulking information and, information on the pillars of success. I want it to have as much value as possible for anyone that gets it. So I have to add that stuff in, but that shouldn't be long at all. AK 1980, Steve, relevant as we were discussing in the coaching app, explain a little bit about water glycogen gain coming out of a cut into a bulk. So when you are leaving a cut, during a cut, you generally, in almost every case, are ingesting a lower amount of carbohydrates. Because you are taking in fewer calories, you generally are taking in fewer electrolytes. Potassium-based foods, probably a little bit less sodium. You might be a little bit more strict during a cutting diet and not eating as loose of food choices. and this could be reducing sodium and potassium intake as well. Generally, you got a couple things going on. You are cleaning up your diet. You're not generally not eating as many carbs and junk carbs, and there's a chance you might be eating a slightly lower amount of electrolytes. This is going to cause some water loss. If you're eating more carbs, you're going to retain more water. That's kind of the nature of the carbohydrate game. You're going to have more glycogen and more water in the muscle cell in general. So when you are slightly depleted during a cut and eating fewer carbs, there's a good chance you're going to be slightly glycogen depleted. When you get back up to full speed, maintenance level, or a slight bulk, the body's going to pull in water. This isn't a bad thing, and it's not fat gain. You're going to pull in water and glycogen into the muscle cells. Because you're taking in a greater number of electrolytes, you're probably going to pull in a little bit more water. When you add these things into your bloodstream, like sodium or potassium or extra carbs, all of a sudden your bloodstream is filling with more insulin, more sodium. Your body's defense mechanism, or one of the mechanisms of the body, is going to be to regulate your blood by adding a little bit more water to dilute the concentration of, say, insulin, or alcohol is another example, to dilute the concentration of alcohol. Maybe dilute if you eat too much sodium in one big blast, which isn't inherently dangerous necessarily. Let's say your body's going to pull in more water to dilute that in your bloodstream. So when you're pulling in a little bit more, you're going to pull in a little bit more water. It's generally just more water in your bloodstream, but you could get some very, very minor degrees of inflammation depending on what your food choices are. So the first week after a cut, generally anywhere from 3 to 4 pounds of water gain back is pretty normal. If you start to see it go up more rapidly than that, 3 is reasonable. If it starts to get into 4 or 5 or 6, we're probably too aggressive on the food intake. With that said, some people are more hyper responsive to carbohydrate intake. Not that it's inherently dangerous, not that carbs are dangerous. Some folks, when they introduce more carbs, you will see almost a sort of hyper reaction where their body will pull in more water than the person next to them. Again, not inherently dangerous. Some of this is due to the amount of muscle tissue you have, et cetera, et cetera. We don't add muscle tissue when we are building muscle. So I want to make sure I frame that the right way. But when we do build muscle, we are fortifying those cells with, I believe, extra mitochondria and other things, and the cell potential is just bigger. So therefore, more potential for water retention, I would suspect. It would make sense. Shelly, how's it going? Shelly, thanks for tuning in. JR, how's it going, JR? Neo, good to see you, Neo. Hello, humanity, good to see you. Scott MC, we got a lot of old faithfuls here today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Big Feller, I hope you had a good weekend. You too. I hope you have a good weekend. I know it's not been an easy week for you, both losing your weak canine friend. It has not at all. If you don't mind, I'll just give you a quick story of my little buddy, and we can move on with life because I don't want to dwell. But it was indeed a very, very hard week for me. And I have 5 dogs. And I'm going to share this photo. And I want to share it because it's important to me. It was the last moment of the little guy's life. And I just want to share his story really, really quickly for those of you guys that saw his picture. This is Little Bird. He was my 5th dog. He passed this week. It was a horrible, horrible way to go. Just a horrible way to go. We received him from the breeder 7 months ago. He was near death. The breeder just asked us if we wanted to take a special case dog, and we did. And when I picked him up from the breeder, he had really bad pneumonia or some really bad lung issue. He was just bone and skins. He was so depleted. There was nothing to his body. It was just bones. He was so underweight. And I literally, when I picked him up, I didn't think he was going to make it 2 days. I literally didn't. I brought him home, and that first night, he was just horrible. We're like, this is not good. I brought him home in here. I was driving, and I put him in here and kept him warm. And I was driving, and he just laid there. He was putting his head up here. It was just the sweetest thing. And over the next 7 months, he became healthy at a really rapid rate. He started to gain weight. We got him up to 9.2 pounds. And just a wonderful, wonderful addition to the family. He became such a wonderful addition. So unique, just a funky personality, just a wonderful, wonderful dog. And things were going pretty well. I mean, things were going good. He was just part of the family, and we couldn't ask for more. He was getting a little pooch belly. Things were going well. Last Wednesday, we went to have him neutered. And at a humane society, a county humane society, I'm not going to name names, we picked him up, and he had an incision that was like 3 inches long. It just looked like the only way to describe it looked like a butcher job. I'm just going to be honest. One of his testicles hadn't dropped. So they had to do all this deep exploratory surgery. And I wish they would have asked us before they did that if we wanted to continue. They didn't, and I'm not playing the blame game. We just kind of are sad that we didn't get the opportunity to discuss this surgery. It wasn't life-threatening. In any case, not playing the blame game, I'm just telling you guys what happened. We brought him home. He's not eating. A day later, he starts vomiting blood. So obviously, this is an area of concern. We took him back to the vet. They looked at him. They gave him a couple medications. The next day, the vomiting of blood stopped. He still wasn't eating. For a couple days, he was kind of in that limbo stage, just normal recovery stage. And then he did have a day where he was eating a little bit. And he started to become a little bit more lively. But then he started to it looked like he had some urinary tract issue. He was, excuse me, spotting. He was drinking plenty of water, but when he would go to the bathroom, it was just drip, 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 and he would just sit there for 10 minutes. You could tell he was in some form of agony. We took him back. The doctor gave him another medication. And then the next day, it got really worse. And we rushed him to the vet because he just was standing there, and then he fell over in the kitchen. We rushed him to the vet, put him on the scale. They felt him and said, there's probably something really wrong. You need to go to get him checked out immediately. At the time, he was about a 4 out of 10. It wasn't like we had any indication that he was going to pass on. But we got in the car. We drove to Cincinnati, which is 35 minutes. We were going to go to the emergency vet. Again, when we hopped in the car, he was not any indication he was going to pass. During the car ride, he deteriorated quickly. And we just knew when we got there that there wasn't much time left. And just suffering, the poor little guy. We were trying to keep him awake during the car ride. When we got in there, they saw him, and rushed him back. They came in 10 minutes later and said he was not good. He needed a blood transfusion for the first thing. His platelets were low and he was anemic and everything possible was wrong with him. They found out he had a heart murmur, that he had some dramatic lung condition, probably from birth, a heart murmur from birth, probably related to whatever was bothering him at birth when we picked him up. And it would have cost $8,000 to even have a prayer of keeping him alive. He, we could have given him a blood transfusion, but there's no guarantee. They didn't even know what was wrong with him. There's so many things. So we just said, give us a moment to process this because we had to give him a blood transfusion. And then if he survived the blood transfusion, then they were going to have to do exploratory surgery. So, and it was going to be $8,000. We said, just give us a minute to process this. She came back in a minute and said he had a heart attack. And then she came back in and said they resuscitated him. We went to see him. This was his last moment. Just comfort him. All I could do was apologize. I just wish I could have done something better for the guy. The hard thing was taking him in. He was so rough, and he just bounced back and to realize from birth he had a heart condition and he had lung issues. You can see his tooth. I used to call him Mr. Tooth because he had a crooked tooth from birth. He was all kinds of rough from birth. And we had him for 7 months. I just wish we could have had him longer. He was such a wonderful guy. It's hard because he never really had a chance. And one of our other dogs was so connected with him. So rest in peace, little bird. All right. Is it okay to train abs the day before a posterior day? The thing you generally, I mean, there's no rigid rules. If you're doing deadlifts and you do anything to compromise the lats or the core to a minor degree, there's a small chance you're not maybe small, but there's a possibility you're going to get into the gym and you are going to, the weight might feel heavier. I don't think it's necessarily the best time to train abs. The day before posterior squats or deadlifts or RDLs, that's kind of a day for me to not do anything to the core, not do anything excessive from a cardio standpoint. It's not that you can't train. I train chest before back day, but you can do it, and I'm not going to make a rule, but they're probably better options. Amanda P, let me get some Purple Monster. All right, so Fiona, my wife. Maybe I'll show you guys a few pictures if you don't mind. She does modeling, not Instagram modeling, mind you. No offense to Instagram models. My wife has been on something like 30 magazine covers. I can't even begin to even count. She has so many covers that she's been on, and she does professional modeling. And I don't know. I guess I can show you a picture from her latest. Let me just show you a picture from her latest photo shoot. She does a lot of photo shoots. And I'll show you one she just did for the spooky dookie season. Okay. That's my wife, Fiona. I love her to death. Just a wonderful, sweet woman, way outside of my league. We all know that. So this is kind of her spooky thing. She's in wonderful shape. And we used to run 2 hours a day. We have she's developed an interest in dancing. She does chair dancing and pole dancing, and she does a lot of fitness stuff. She gets up every morning, drives to the YMCA, and does a class. The class varies, I believe, between, it's not, it's general conditioning stuff, pretty intense. And then, she does that 6 days a week, Monday through Friday. She will do that. I believe it's from 9 till like 10:15 or whatever. Then she'll come home and work at 5 o'clock every day except for Wednesday. She goes off to a dance class. There's pole dancing, there's chair dancing, there's other kinds of dancing. It's not tongue in cheek, haha. The stuff she does on the pole dancing is extremely gymnastic, absolutely impressive. It's not, pole dancing, go to the strip club, pole dancing, not to be crude, and the chair, like very gymnastics intense. She does that 4 days a week. Tuesday night, she gets home at close to 11. So she's there for like 3-4 hours. Thursday night, she gets home at about 10:30. She's there for 3 hours. Just an incredible amount of this type of conditioning work. She doesn't lift weights specifically, but in her conditioning work in the morning at the YMCA, she does a little bit of that. On Friday morning, she does a dance class as well. So her schedule is pretty intense. She probably does 15 to 20 hours of classes and conditioning and dance classes a week. My wife will be 50 next year. Don't tell anybody. But just absolutely a superstar when it comes to exercise. All right, Ventrix. Is there any value in glute isolation? Well, everybody's going to be a little bit different, right? I did squats for 40 years, and my glutes, I would say, are a little bit on the underdeveloped side. How much you're going to get out of lunges and squats and hack squats and leg press for glutes is going to vary. If you're very quad dominant like me, I tend to get less glutes out of these things. So there's no harm in doing glute isolation work. I wouldn't replace leg work with glute isolation work, but I would say you can add it in if you have time. Big Kevin, good to see you, Kevin. Happy rainy day from Wisconsin. Hope things are going well. It's a little bit chilly here in Ohio, but yeah, anytime you get that good chilly, rainy day, it's a good day to lock yourself indoors and crush it. Is this selection good for delts? Overhead press, seated dumbbell press, dumbbell laterals, rear delt flies. That's pretty much what I do. I usually add in an exercise when I have extra time, like an upright row, like a high pull, maybe a bulldozer lateral. But yeah, that's a wonderful, wonderful selection. That'll treat you very, very well. That is the meat and potatoes, a good starting point. Big Lee. The kids go back to school Tuesday, just 5 more days. UK dads and our bulks can resume. Good. May the fork be with you. Also, is buying a Smith machine for a bedroom gym a sign of a midlife crisis? No, it's a sign, hey, like I got my kids to 18, and when you have a little bit more, cash for yourself and you're not busy taking care of everybody else all the time, and I don't say that in a negative way, Absolutely. It's a sign that you're reconnecting with your passion. So do what you need to do. I did chest today and my elbows are no longer burning on the bench. That's good. I've also been doing dumbbell bench before any bar work. Is that a factor in my elbows being a lot? Well, we don't know. Okay. So the situation with Lee is that he's doing dumbbell bench before barbell bench, and he's finding that it treats his elbow better. Is this a magic solution for everyone? No. This is very much a case of specificity, sorry, between lifters. There are some people I have that have shoulder issues and they do a Swiss bar and it helps them feel better. You just never know. The body is so extremely complex. So when you have an issue, this really speaks to trying some new things to see what works for you and abandoning what doesn't. You know, in the influencer world, there's such a tight, restrictive, do this, repeat the same exercise. I mean, the fad right now is use a minimal sets, repeat the same number of exercises, X number of days, blah, blah, blah. And all of this pseudo optimization stuff holds together for about 2 days until you go to the gym. And then you have specificity kicking in. So this is a good case of that. Steve, good to see you. I read your article on Trudell's Doggcrapp training method. Have you ever tried running? Yeah. Way back around 2007, 2008, I dabbled with it a little bit. What I did, and I'm not saying it's a bad method. Again, this is evolving training based on needs. One of the pillars of success I teach in the massive iron world. I didn't like certain aspects. Again, that doesn't mean it's not a good program. I have nothing but respect for Dante. He's one of my favorite people to post, to follow on Instagram. He's a brutality guy, a guy like me. We have so much in common, and I have nothing but respect for him. With that said, I didn't like personally certain aspects of Doggcrapp. So I evolved it and did things I did like better. Not a criticism of Doggcrapp. It's perfectly fine. But I created the Bulldozer method. Around 2008, I started messing around with the Bulldozer method, the rest pause method. And if you don't know what that is, just hit me up on DM on Instagram at Ben the Barman, or email me benthebarman@gmail.com or whatever. I'll share that with you. Search the channel Bulldozer rest pause. You will find it. I started messing around with escalating Bulldozer. I spent a year in 2008 doing Bulldozer and escalating density, escalating Bulldozer training, an entire year doing this offshoot or my variation of rest pause. It's not the same as Dante's workout. It's in the same family, but I like rest pause work. I think it's probably one of the more underappreciated tools because you can increase the overall rep value and you don't have to increase the overall volume. It can also be far more engaging for many people because you don't have these long rests at the end of a set. You just take 10 deep breaths and you get back after it again. It can just be really, really engaging. Not magic, but certainly a fun way to train. Big Billy Baker, good to see you, my friend. Welcome to Friday. We are 40 minutes in. I'm gonna get some more monsters, some monster energy molecules. Before we continue, just a reminder, I want you to head over to my website and check the coaching tab. There's a form you can fill out if you're just interested and curious about coaching. Fill it out. We can have a conversation. I'm never going to pressure anybody. I stay very full. I have, and I've been very lucky. You know, I've been doing YouTube forever, so my coaching roster stays extremely full. But with that said, there's always somebody transitioning for one reason or the other. Somebody having a baby, somebody moving house. So, you know, if you want in, I'd love to work with you. It's only $89.40. per month after the first month. But you can find out more. Check that out. Go over here and search the go to the search button and search custom. I have a custom workout service. I also have a phone consultation service. I do about one of those a week. And I have a lot of workouts. Check out the workout tab for workout ideas. All of them are free here, but you can also get the PDF over here. I have books. I have all kinds of resources, spreadsheets. Check it out. Check it out. Check out my book, Massive Bulking. If you need to get your bulking act together, go over here and search bulking right now. And by the way, I'm a small business. I'm not an influencer. I coach for a living. This is what I do for my income. So if you guys need help, I'm here to help in any way I can. And, workouts, custom workouts, bulking information. I answer every question for free. I always will. And I only want to work with people that have the time and money and feel comfortable working with me. Everybody outside of that, I'm always going to answer every question for free. Even on my deathbed, I'm going to be sitting there in the hospital, everything falling off, everything falling out, and I'm going to be answering your questions because that is the way I'm going out. Jason, good Friday, big man. Sorry about the loss. Thank you. I appreciate it. I lost 2 pounds between weighing in on Monday and today. It could be minor underhydration. Sometimes it's just random, arbitrary. The first thing you're going to look at, though, is calorie and carb fluctuation. Secondly, you could have been eating more, a little bit on the junkier side of food and cleaned it up a little bit. Maybe you're eating a little bit less sodium, a little bit less tortilla chips, that sort of thing, but getting in the same amount of calories, that could play a role as well. But if you're losing weight, open the mouth and start munching. Is sprinting really that? I don't like sprinting. I don't advocate sprinting. GVS aside, I don't like explosive movements. If you're young and virile and bouncy, go right ahead. I don't think sprinting is the way to go. In running, I've had a couple of the top running coaches in the world. And one of the methods we improved our baseline speed and VO2 max and all that kind of good stuff was a degree of below sprinting. So sprinting sounds cool. Sprinting looks cool. But I don't believe it's the way to go. And hear me out. Basically, the way I teach it is you have 4 speeds. Walking. Okay, that's speed 1. Zone 1. This is my way of teaching it. Speed 4 is sprinting as fast as you can go for 10, 12, maybe 15 seconds. And then you have to slow down. All out as fast as you can go, 10 to 15 seconds. So zone 1 is walking. Zone 4 is sprinting. All out for 10 to 15 seconds. Zone 2 is running at conversational pace. Your heart rate tends to be in the 130s. That's a rough estimate. You might have some peaks and valleys, but you're running at a very steady and sustainable pace. If we were running together, we could hold a conversation. We're not pushing for PRs. We're doing workman work. That's zone 2. Okay. Zone 3 is going to be a stage below sprinting. It's something that is faster than running, but that you can only sustain for a maximum of about 60 to 90 seconds before you have to downgrade. It's a speed below sprinting. And if you want to work on your general conditioning and health and get your heart rate up and reduce the explosive movements, which I don't particularly think are the best for most people in the long run. I'm not trying to fearmonger. I just think there's a better way. And running in that zone where you can sustain it for a minute, much faster pace, and then you downgrade your pace until your heart rate regulates again, gets back down to that conversational pace rate. It might take 60 seconds to 120 seconds, and then you go again. This is what we would call surging. What anybody that does running coaching or assistance with me learns. Then you go back out for a minute and do that, more aggressive sustained pace. So, if you're going to get into that world, this is what I would recommend. What those guys are doing, it's physical activity. I don't care. And they're younger guys than me. But for most of us, I don't want to see a soccer dad or a dad bod or somebody not sprinting. Just start sprinting. That's not a good command decision. Okay. It's just, you just don't start out being on the couch and start sprinting. You're going to spork a propeller, right? You're going to get yourself into trouble. So that sounds fear mongering, but it's a high risk of injury. That's just kind of ease into things and maybe do a little bit of work in that zone. The good thing is you can do work in that zone on a treadmill, a Stairmaster, an elliptical. You can do something fast that is sustainable for only a minute on any form of cardio, swimming, whatever. And we can take out the explosive nature, the danger, Will Robinson, explosive nature of all-out sprinting. Jason, when with training back, would you keep your pulling moves together and your rows or mix it together? Pulls and rows are the same thing. Do you mean pull downs, like lat pull downs and pull ups? I assume so. You can do it whatever you want. The biggest lie in back training is that lat work doesn't hit the middle back or the rhomboids or anything else, and that rowing doesn't hit the lats. They are compound movements, and there's going to be some interplay. You piece it together any way you want. It doesn't matter. Whatever is safe and smart for you, you'll be fine. How do you know when it's time to end a cut and start building again? I mean, it's really up to the individual. Everybody has a different idea of where they want to be body fat percentage wise. You have to make sure at minimum you have room to gain 10 pounds at minimum after you get that initial 2, 3, 4 pounds of water weight gain after a cut. So you have to make sure you have the capability to do that at minimum. So when you end a cut, if you are in a cut and you are feeling highly motivated, take it another 2, 3, 5 pounds deeper. You don't have to set a specific number, but when you are in a cut and things are going well, probably I hate to phrase it like this, but probably one of the worst things you could do would be just to stop at a number. If things are going well in a cut, why not take it 2 more pounds more deep, 3, 5, maybe even 10? If you have the motivation and the momentum, then take it a little bit deeper. That just gives you a better opportunity, better bulking opportunity. There's nothing wrong with taking a cut deeper. The only bad thing is when we get into this limbo world where we're not sustaining a cut. We're going up and down and cheating and eating like little piggies, and our weight's not moving up or down. It's just staying the same. And we stay in a cut for like 4 to 5 months because we can't get it together and just get it over with, right? I've said this over and over again. If you want to be a master of body recomposition or changing your body, you better be able to nail a cut. This is the prime directive. You better be able to nail a cut, because if you can't, you are not going to ever improve your body composition. If you have mess around itis and you can't sustain a cut, I am not bashing on you. I'm not being critical. I'm not putting you down. I wouldn't even say I'm being critical. What I'm just honestly telling you is you're never going to master body recomposition. You can bulk, anybody can eat more food, right? And go into the gym. You probably have your lifting together. Not you, Paladin. I'm just speaking in general. I'm not directing this at Paladin because I know who he is. But anybody out there, you're probably lifting pretty decently if you're watching this channel. And you certainly have the ability to eat extra Doritos or ice cream or extra calories. So generally, bulking isn't an issue, even if you have control issue. You might have control issues, but that's a different subject. But if you can't nail a cut, you are going to struggle monumentally with body recomposition, developing the body you want. So at some point, you need to gird up those big, juicy boys of yours or girls of yours, whatever you have going on. And you need to have a long talk with the person in the mirror. I need to get my act together. Boo hoo, I feel hungry. Feel. I talked about feeling last week. You need to be real with yourself. I feel hungry. I want a little bit of pizza. I have no willpower. Fight. It's only short term. I would even go even further that if you have the inability to execute a short-term cut and fight with discipline and push back, then that's probably indicative of other areas of your life you're probably going to struggle in as well with short-term discipline. Not a criticism. I hope it is encouragement. We need to take it seriously. Wake up. Wake up. You're tolerating your own excuses. I'm hungry. Who cares if you're hungry? You expect this to be a walk in the park? Get over it. You're not going to die if you don't put something in your pie hole. I'm saying this with love. I mean, if you are serious about your body recomposition, then you need to start fighting back. Let's see some sparks, some life. I want you to get up at 5 a.m., drink some raw eggs like Rocky Balboa and chase chickens around the yard. Show yourself this is important. You are watching. Confidence builds confidence. A step forward puts you in the position to take the next step forward. Fight. Take this seriously. You have one life. There are so many people that want a better body, and their whole life they're chained to this thought. Every day they wake up, I got to diet, I got to cut back. I know what I'm doing wrong. I got to cut back. I got to diet. I know I need exercise. People stay chained in this lane, but they never fight back. It's always tomorrow, Monday. No, it's the next meal. I'm hungry. I know you are. I'm certain you are. Go do something. Get busy. Get your mind off of it. Generally, if you push forward in another half an hour or hour, the feeling is going to go away. You're not going to die. But the result, the outcome is going to be glorious. And that's what you're after. Big Lee. I bought an SSB safety squat bar, which arrived yesterday, and doing Bulgarian split squats with it while holding onto my rack. Good. I like having that balance aspect. I hope it works well for you. I see a lot of coaches using refeeds with competitors. Well, the competitor world is the competitor world's more complicated, right? They're doing a long, prolonged cut, and if they need to work refeeds in for mental sanity, they might do that. If things, just for a little bit of boost. There are many reasons they might do it. We're in the world here of philosophy, when you're cutting for a show, and you have to know your person. You have to know what they can tolerate and not tolerate and what lane they're in. And sometimes having 400 or 500 more calories once a week, but not going over maintenance, can be just what they need. If they are on track and they're losing weight, I wouldn't say it's overrated. Everybody's different. And that's really, truly the case when it comes to prolonged periods of fat loss. Big Michael from Germany, speaking of fat loss, Michael has been executing an amazing cut. Good morning, Team Massive. Greetings from Berlin. Can you go over how you would approach going from a long and hard cut back to bulking? So what I advocate, and this is not a hard rule, this is a generalization, a starting point, and I will explain why, is going to where you think maintenance is for 5 days. A couple of reasons, and weighing in every morning. Number one, we want to have a little bit of water increase while having calories nailed at a specific point. If you go above maintenance to where you were bulking last, there's a chance you can have a bigger swing. And we can't really kind of gauge where your maintenance, your new maintenance is, where things are steadying up. I like to go about 5 days just to kind of gauge roughly where new maintenance is. And then we will start ramping up the calories and not keep you in pain any longer. That's one reason. The second reason is that there is a small but substantial percentage of individuals that come off a cut and gain weight too rapidly. A cut is not easy, and sometimes after a long cut, all you can think about is nachos and ice cream and stuff, and 3 double, triple cheeseburgers and extra fries. And before you know it, you wake up a week after your cut and you're up 8 to 10 pounds. Now, obviously, a lot of this is water weight, but man, you just execute a rigid cut and you're right back to your pre-bulking weight. Or you're right back to your weight, almost back to where you were when you ended your bulk. So I think it's critical at this point to execute discipline until we get that rate locked in. I'm not saying you can't have loose foods. The thing you can't do at that point is just binge, right? It's not going to be good. This is kind of a complex subject, and I'm not trying to create any borderline eating disorder crap, but we have to be smart about things. I've seen too many people jump back in and just be glutton for a week. Cut is done, glutton. Oh, we just gained 12 pounds, right? That is, there's several things that drive that, but if you are in the mentality that when your cut is over, you're going to go back to normal eating, and normal eating is excessive, then that's probably something someone would have to address. But one of the reasons why I ease up into things isn't any magical philosophical reason or physiological reason, or any physiological reason, I should say. It's number one, to make sure we prevent that scenario from happening, and it's to learn a client. Bulking is in many ways as hard, if not harder, than cutting. You have to eat within a certain lane. You have to have a reasonable degree of consistency. That doesn't mean you can't have ice cream or drinks or have a fun day. It just means we kind of need to avoid abusive behavior. Imagine that. Now, it's okay to overdo it every now and then. This is this is life. We can have fun and celebrate and overdo it and have a buffet once in a while, have a few too many drinks once in a while, or have an extra piece of cheesecake once in a while. But if exiting a bulk is like binge, overconsume, there's something going on here that we need to fix. Lee, not a criticism, it's just speaking man to man, man to woman, whatever. Some guy I know who claims to be a PT told me compounds are the best way to grow arms. No, this is nonsense. Compounds are, compounds aside, lifts with a progression opportunity are required. Putting things into black and white groups like this is just ignorance. There are some isolations with wide progression opportunities, like a barbell curl. There are isolation leaning exercises. I mean, inherently, let's be real, there are no true isolation exercises. Gripping the bar is still working your forearms, right? Doing a dumbbell fly, your biceps are still involved. Your front delts are still involved. It's a spectrum. And I'm certain this person probably wouldn't argue that, but he is speaking more broadly, like compounds are going to be the only thing. That's nonsense. Compounds, you need to get strong at your rows and pulls to have a base for your arm size. But you also need to fill in the gaps after that with good quality isolation exercises for your arms. I would, anytime you're around this guy, I would get a pair of earplugs and just do blah, 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 right? Or just let it go in one ear and out the other. Big Paul, always good to see you, Paul, one of my favorite people on planet Earth. Any tips on progressively overloading hanging leg raises? You could do the dumbbell between your feet, ankle weights. If you have a backpack, I don't know if you're training at home or whatever, you could put a little bit of weight in the backpack and put your feet under the old Armoruski straps. So depending on where you're training, there are some ways you could do it. You could do a dumbbell, you could do ankle weights. Those get kind of expensive. If you're at home, you could get a backpack, put your feet under the old Armoruski straps, and you could load it up with whatever you wanted. You could put the dog in there. You could put the small child in there. Just a joke, people. I'm joking. But you understand what I'm saying. Patty, I've lost a lot of strength. Can it be regained? Oh, absolutely. Once you have the strength, you have the mental confidence that I know what it took to get there, so you're not afraid of it. It's easier to get back the second time. And physically, if you've done it before, you can do it again. You just have to be safe and smart. Let me get a drink. We're about an hour and 5 minutes in. Keep the questions coming. Maxing out on a lat pull down for tricep pushdowns and doing dumbbell preachers with the heaviest dumbbell in the gym should be the new standard every lifter should aspire to hit. I think I like the triceps pushdown. It's a wonderful exercise. And I think it's, for some people, it'll bother the elbows. For most people, it won't. But I think it's a wonderful exercise that isn't like overly physically intense, like doing some more close grip benches. Not that I don't want you to do that, but it's a good exercise for that reason. Dumbbell preachers quality lift. The thing with bicep exercises is that there's so many good bicep variations. So I think you should pick a couple that just treat your body well. I don't like heavy bicep work. It bothers my bicep tendon. I just don't like the way it feels. I have longer arms. That could be a personal thing. I'm not dissuading you or telling you not to get stronger on your curls by any means, but just pick exercises that work well for you for the biceps. At what point in your lifting journey is it time to stop expecting plus ones every week? Probably the late beginner stage. You're going to get into the gym. Everything's going well. Nearly every week, you're going to hit a plus one. And then you get your bench up to like 160. I'm just using this as an arbitrary number. And all of a sudden, there's going to be a rate of decay where it's going to go from boom, boom, boom every week to if you get a rep every fourth week, you're making good progress. That isn't doing anything wrong. That's normal. That's a normal part of the process. Other than the deadlift, are there any other exercises you would categorize as a unicorn lift? The pullover is definitely one of them. And that's a really good call. A unicorn lift is something in the bodybuilding world, we have our body part boxes. So bench press is a chest exercise. Lat pull down is a lat exercise. We have our body part boxes where it has a primary area of focus and not the only area of focus, but a primary. A deadlift is very much a unicorn lift, meaning it works the traps hard, it works the back and lats hard, but it also works your core hard, your quads hard, maybe your glutes and hamstrings hard. It has a lot of carryover in different places. A pullover is very unique because anytime you get that elbow rotation, you're going to get some stress on your triceps. You can't work that out. That elbow rotation, you're going to get some stress on your triceps. Driving the elbows down, I can feel my lats working right now. But you can also feel your chest working. So to a minor degree, you could have it more chest focused. You could have it more lat focused. You could even have it more triceps focused if you get a little bit more extension action in. Now, on a bench press, you're pushing the bar forward. Your hand is moving away from the body. That is calling into play your pecs, okay? Pec, hand away from the body, calling into play your pecs. In a pullover, your hand, your elbow, your hands move away from the body, move forward of the body, just in a different type of movement arc. But at the end of the movement, your hands are forward of your body. So it is physiologically impossible to do this. What have we got here? Dog cootie something. It's physiologically impossible to pull over and get to this position without using some of the pecs and front delt. Does that make sense? So it's very much a unicorn lift. There are other unicorn lifts, to varying degrees, depending on, if you're doing some of the Olympic lifts like clean and press. People just like to do. Occasionally a client will want that worked in. A lot of Olympic lift variations, I wouldn't say are the greatest way to spend time for pure hypertrophy, but there are some lifts, that are interesting for hypertrophy that could be worked in, like the clean and press or the, high pull or things like that. Any thoughts on doing laterals with a cuff? I don't care how you do your laterals. Put a cuffy wuffy on, put a band, hang a cat from your wrist, just jokes, people. Do it. But as long as you are focusing on good leverage, good breathing, bracing, and driving your elbows up as a part of that movement pattern, you're fine. Good. I see Martin here, one of my favorite people on planet Earth. My day without Martin is like a day without sunshine. And I'm not being facetious. Tony, good to see you, Tony. Happy Freitag. I noticed that The Rock uses a lot of pre-fatigue work. Do you think this is because his connective tissue strength may not be able to keep up? Personally, this is just my opinion. But I don't find that doing pre-fatigue work actually fatigues me for the coming lift. So I did a kind of a reverse step workout last year where I did dumbbell fly, then a barrel press, then a dumbbell bench press, and then a bench press. So I was progressing kind of in the opposite direction as we would expect. So probably you could say the ultimate example of pre-fatigue. Now, obviously, I picked up I picked up some fatigue by the time I got the dumbbell bench and bench, but I'm still using some pretty darn heavy weight. So I don't know. Everything's probably highly unique with The Rock. One thing I do find with pre-fatigue work is that it's probably better called priming work. If you want to do leg curls or leg extensions prior to squats or dumbbell flies, moderate prior to bench, it might help prime or wake up the central nervous system or loosen things up a little bit, highly dependent on the individual. I hope that helps some. Big PD, I would really like to focus on ab development during my next bulk. I would, if you really want to do like the thick ab route and you have time, we probably need to look at, 3-4 quality exercises we can have in the mix that have some sort of progression opportunity. The things I like to do aren't going to be the things you like to do, but you could do decline. I used to like doing decline sit-ups with a plate on my chest. It's all in the execution, and how they're going to stress the abs. I've done, the cable crunches. I don't mind them. I actually like them more for volume than, I'd rather do more volume and progress in the volume lane, like 4 or 5 sets. That's just personal choice. You could do hanging knee raises or leg raises. Then even put in something funky like a dragon flag progression or something a little bit more elaborate. But I would focus on lifts that really have a good progression opportunity or an ability to increase the challenge. I like, the rotational stuff like wood choppers, cable wood choppers, something that gets the obliques and a little bit more involved than just a conventional ab work. I like having one of those in the mix as well. I wish I had the ability to do them here. Fooster, new name. Good to have you here. How to make your clients track calories. You need divine intervention. I don't know. You need the Catholic saint of calorie tracking to bless you. I'm not Catholic. I'm just making that as a joke, but you kind of know what I mean. I find people either find the value or they don't find the value. And I'm not being critical either way. If we're not tracking calories, we need some structure in play. It can't be, as my mom used to say, willy-nilly, right? You can't go around willy-nilly, whatever the heck that means. There has to be some structure. It can't just be a la carte, eating on whims. For lunch, I want Chipotle. For dinner, what do I want? Maybe a burrito or maybe 3 slices of pizza, right? That's not a fat loss strategy. That's like, this is the type of attitude and structure that gets people to slowly gain weight, eating on whims. Your food shouldn't taste bland. And if your food tastes bland, you probably need a little bit of a, to take some time and sort a few things out. But if you don't track calories, you need a plan. You need a structure, at least a starting point. I'm going to eat at 8. I'm going to eat at 11. I'm going to eat at this. I'm going to eat about this many calories. And then you need to put some food choices in. When I was a machinist, I would have certain things I would eat for my morning break snack at 10:30. I would have 3 pieces of string cheese or 4 pieces of light string cheese at 50 calories a piece and a banana. I knew it would be around 300 calories. I would take oatmeal. I knew it was about this many calories. You need a structure of foods that fit within your calorie range. Without a structure, without planning your meals, you might as well just go over to the cliff, the proverbial cliff of fat loss, and just jump with no parachute, because you're going to land hard in the world of weight gain. Slow, fast, whatever. You don't want to track, that's fine. That's not an excuse, not the plan. Not an excuse, not the structure. Not an excuse not to think through things. Nothing drives me crazier than people that want better body composition that never have a basic structure in place. This is the game. Outside of the outliers, you do not have to develop an eating disorder, but thinking about your food choices in advance is not an eating disorder. It's responsible, and it's going to facilitate changes in your body composition. I have a break at 10:30, and I want to eat about 300 calories. What are my choices? Creating a reasonable structure, right? It's not, I ain't planned for today, and I'm hungry at 10 o'clock and it's break time. I wonder what the old vending machine has. Oh, look, it has a honey bun. I like the look of the honey bun. I'm going to put the quarters in and get the honey bun. And then you get it, and it has like 600 calories. And you're like, oh, I only have 300 calories. I'll just cut back on my next meal. And then noon comes, and you go in and the guy, the stuff in the break room, somebody brought in chili or sausages, or somebody's ordering out to Chinese, and you're like, right? You don't want to track calories, that's fine. Excuse my bad honey bun humor. But you need to get some things figured out. Planning is not an eating disorder. Structure is not an eating disorder. Doing the opposite is eating like a 3-year-old. Let that resonate. 3-year-olds don't develop good physiques. You have to have adult planning that is not driving disordered eating. Thinking about better choices. Thinking about taking care of yourself. Thinking about what is appropriate is almost a necessity in this modern era. So fat loss strategies. This weekend, what times make sense for me to eat? We don't want to add in random eating, because during a fat loss strategy, random eating is usually the enemy. Make a basic structure. Okay, so now you have the structure. What is my natural eating? What are my natural eating habits? Do I like to have a big breakfast, and then I can go throughout the day without much food, and then I like to have a big dinner? Do I like to have a big breakfast, and then I can be fine not eating much the rest of the day? Do I do okay not eating much during the day, and then I eat a lot at the end of the day because I like to go to bed full? What is your natural structure? Your plan should not go at odds with your natural structure. It should work with it. We are trying to facilitate progress, not work against our natural habits. So you have a plan, you have eating times that work with your natural structure. Now you need to sit down and use this gray matter. What is healthier, good, better, best, that I could eat during that time that will help facilitate calorie moderation, food volume, getting in enough food, and that I will enjoy and taste good. It's good, better, best. There are plenty of frozen meals at the grocery store. If you don't have time to cook, and I'm not making fun of anybody, I work very long days, and some days I put in a frozen meal that has 22 grams of protein, 280 calories, and it has actual veggies and meat in it. It's not junk. That's good. That's a step up over Doritos or the honey bun from the vending machine. Good, a step up. Better, best. Have options. Keep them in the house. Understand your options. Plan to fail. What am I going to do when I'm really tired? Have something around that's quick and easy. I don't spend an extensive amount of times cooking because I work 70 hours a week. If I used before I worked 70 hours a week, I love to cook. I love to just get creative. You have to work with what is working for you. And when it comes to fruits and veggies and food choices, don't eat what you think you should eat. Find protein sources you like. Find fruits and veggies, plant-based foods you like. Like, it's not like I'm going to diet. I must eat broccoli and cauliflower and carrots. I don't work like that. I do like broccoli, but I use onions, pickled onions, jalapeno peppers, roasted red pepper, frozen medley of berries, just pickled pearl onions, mushrooms, pickled cucumbers. These are veggies. These are plant-based choices. They don't have to be, I use a lot of tomatoes because they're great for food volume. It doesn't have to be perceived diet food, kale and cauliflower. Let me get a drink. How do you decide whether to cut ROM on a flat incline bench? Your front delts are always going to be the limiter when you start your pressing journey. Not the limiter. They're going to take a lot of heat because almost anybody that gets into a lot of pressing is going to have front delt soreness. That's not inherently the limiter. That's just one piece of the puzzle getting up to speed. We do not cut range of motion to try to turn this into something else that doesn't work the front delts. You need the front delts to get stronger. You're not going to build a big chest, big shoulders, big anything unless everything's getting big, especially those front delts. So you need to just continue doing what you're doing. Let the front delts get stronger. Don't make micro adjustments trying to turn a compound movement into an isolation movement that takes the front delts out of it. The only time to cut range of motion is if your shoulders are getting bothered slightly. I hope that helps. Big Nolan. Massive. One of these days, Nolan, I'm going to be prepared. Nolan's one of my favorite people, one of my favorite clients. Oh, my goodness. One of these days, I'm going to be prepared. Let's think for a moment. I've told so many stories. I told my Ronnie stories. I've told my Jay Cutler stories. I think probably not the biggest story I've ever told, but in my lifting career, I've gotten to work with, do content development with a lot of IFBB pros. not the top, not always the top pros. I mean, Kai Green, yeah. Ronnie, yeah. Jay, yeah. But a lot, I've gotten to work indirectly with Phil, he had a supplement line. I never met him. I didn't, work extensively with him, but one thing you notice about the IFBB pros when they come in, they usually, for some reason, tend to have a lot of baggier clothes on. I don't know if they're hiding it because they don't want to deal with it in public. But you can't really grasp how impressive they look until they take that shirt off, because they can come in and they can look like, a little bit bigger than me, right? Let me see if I can find a good example. You guys want to see a good example? Let me just search my picture archive, see if I can find one really, really quick. They look big, but you can't really tell what's underneath the hood until they take that shirt off. And then you're like, what? Okay, here's a good example. IFBB Pro Tank Dixon. Let me just get the old picture here. Here's the tanker. I got to meet him a while back. Let me. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. There's IFBB Pro Tank Dixon. So you can see he's got layers and layers. You can't really tell the quad size. You can kind of see in the old deltozoid region. If you look close, you can kind of see it. But it's not that he doesn't look big. It's just that there's not that awe factor until they take off their shirt and you're like, what the? And then you see the quads and the stuff and the glutes and not the glutes. I'm not staring at his glutes. The quads and the delts and the chest. And let me see BB Pro Tank Dixon. Let's see what he looks like right here. So, okay, that, right? You're looking at that, you're like, when they take off their shirt and you can just see stuff and all the little details, your mind's like, whoa, what? Because a lot of that stuff you didn't see under that hoodie or whatever, right? But I think my story of the week is, in meeting these guys, one of the interesting things is, yes, they look big, but when they take their, shirt off or get in a tank top and you can see striation nation, you're like, what in the world am I looking at? Amanda P, pros and cons of taking time off from squatting. Well, the pros are a lot less mental stress generally. Maybe less lower back stress. Squats are very intense and very unforgiving for most of us. So you get a little bit of break from that. I mean, the cons are highly individual. You can build big legs without squatting. Many of my clients take breaks from squatting just because form is aggravating and they're not getting as much out of it as they wanted, or it's beating up their lower back. As long as you have a good selection of exercises, I wouldn't bat an eye. If you want to season away just to come in fresh, by all means. Thanks, Neo. I appreciate it. Any upvote or comment, or even just watching the video, from start to finish in the background, I appreciate it all. Live videos are very hard to get traction on YouTube, but I'm not worried about views. I'm not worried about view time. All I care about is you guys and helping you guys. That's all I care about. I'll leave the view counts to the influencers, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. You guys are all that matters to me. Thoughtful curmudgeon. Dude, I'm so sorry to hear this. Thank you. Been through it myself. We can't help but love these little creatures. They become our family. Yeah, thank you. Anybody that missed it, I was talking about my dog that passed away. He was just a little bit more than a year old. And I think it's much harder when a life is taken early because, number one, they're so full of life that just last week before surgery, he's running. I have this vision of him running around the yard at night chasing moths. And it doesn't make sense, especially when somebody is young. Rest in peace, little bird. Do you think of dips as a horizontal vertical press triceps movement? There's a way to angle it more so it is more triceps focused. I like to lean in a little bit more and feel the chest slightly during the extension and completion of the rep. So I like to get in a little bit more chest feeling. It is not as simplistic and easy to quantify as some people would think. It definitely is going to involve the triceps. It definitely is good for the chest, but some of it's going to come down to execution. Brandon, thank you, sir. My heart breaks for your family. I know this is no consolation, but you give your dog the best life you could. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do. I'll tell you, if you've never had a dachshund, good grief, man. They are amazing dogs. They are so full of personality. Every one of them has a different personality. And they're just wonderful, wonderful dogs. I can't speak highly. And I've been a dog owner my entire life and a cat owner. I like cats and dogs. But I've never met anything like the dachshund. If you want to kick up your dog game, these guys are just so loyal, so affectionate, so unique, very expressive with their eyes, just smart dogs and wonderful dogs. You have to own a dachshund once in your life. My fiance is considering going to the gym or joining fitness classes. She's never gone to the gym and hasn't played any sports. First off, the messing it up. We have to detach from expected outcomes. The expected outcome we need to insert in there is, I want to encourage her to have fun. If you do not enjoy the form of movement you are doing, you will not stick to it. My wife doesn't do conventional resistance training. She does a lot of gymnastics, dance, and general conditioning. She loves it. We do not need to, I'm not saying you are, but we do not need to turn people into lifters. I see a lot of people that like lifting, that mom or dad or sister or wife or fiance, we take them to the gym and all of a sudden they're doing squats and deadlifts and bench press. And no. Fun, play is the cornerstone, really the cornerstone. If you want to allow somebody the opportunity to be the best learner, put them in the best position to learn, show them different things, give them freedom, not restriction. You have to do this structure and this frequency to maximize gains. Well, they just stepped into the gym. Cut them some slack. Maybe all they like is machines. So what? Maybe they want to swim and then do 20 minutes of treadmill and then maybe cap it off with only glute exercises. So what? Movement, enjoying movement is so important. And we can't turn everybody into lifters like us. We have our passions. Let people have their own passions. if they ask questions about maximizing body composition, we do not beat them over the head. We give them an honest, sincere answer. If she goes and she does a fitness class and she likes it, but she's not doing resistance training like we do it, but she comes home one day and says, I want to look like her. What do you think? Don't just come up with a program and do all this stuff and do all the things and say you must do this structure now. Be real, be human. Well, what these people are doing involves a pretty relentless degree of dedication. Progressive overload, really good structure, really good meal planning. Is that something that interests you? Would that be something you're interested in trying? Because people try things does not mean they're going to like things. That is the heart and soul of life, trying new things. We have to remove the expectation from trying new things. If you live your life trying new things, waking up, I'm going to try, not purposely, I'm not just going to actively seek new things to try. But if you live your life in that spirit where I'm going to try new things, by trying new things, you're going to find things you like that you didn't like before. And some of these are going to turn into extreme passions. So with your fiance, you have to be sincere and meet them where they're at rather than a pusher or a drug pusher. I got what you need. Right. I got what you need. Come on over here. Let me show you the plan. Give her the freedom. Don't push, educate. Oh, this is what it would take. You want to give it a try? No, that's okay. As long as we are moving, taking care of ourselves, we do not all need to be alike. So I hope that helps. Big Ernie P. I like bike sprints and sled pushes instead of sprints. Whatever works for you, that's exactly what we were just talking about. You do what you like to do. Big Sam. I've lost 30 pounds over 3 months. Well done. That's not easy. I'm roughly 15%. I'd like to see, Sam, if you have a picture, you don't have to post it on here. Send it up on Team Massive or send it to me. I'll give you a body composition analysis. I'll look at your weight, your height, and I'll give you a couple reasonable choices, and you can decide what's best for you. Have you ever used a lever curl bar for biceps? I've used pretty much everything, but I'm not sure what you mean by a lever curl bar. What am I missing? Oh, you mean one of those rotational doohickeys? Are the hands free? Are the oh no, that's the Watson Power Curl Bar. Oh, you mean one of those things where you put the thing on and the plates? I think I know what you mean. No, I have not used a lever curl bar. I'm sure it costs a little bit looking at it. I would not buy one before trying one. But there are so many different types of bicep exercises. I'm sure it's fine, but I would not buy one before I try one. Big Sam. Do you think that gymnasts have amazing arms because they are short and have the genetics they do into curls? I'm going to say this. Do you think basketball players are tall because of basketball? I know I'm being silly. Do you think sprinters get big legs from sprinting? Or is part of it lifters that have naturally solid quad mass and the ability to generate power in the process, big legs could be integral, not for everyone, not at all times. Gymnasts are going to be naturally at the upper level they have a greater propensity for body weight strength. And they're probably going to be at the upper level of more of not an easy, they train very, very hard, but their body's going to be a little bit more responsive. So gymnasts are lean. You can't really be a gymnast and be overweight because it's going to work against the body weight nature of what you're doing. There's no 240-pound male gymnast with a big belly. So they're going to be inherently lean, and you're going to see their definition. Now, do gymnasts not do weight training? I would imagine a lot of gymnasts do weight training because they are dedicated athletes. I would imagine that they're pretty dedicated with weight training. Do they have natural potential level mass? No. Do they maybe have 15 and a half, 16-inch arms and are lean and look great because they're in good shape? Yes. So I think it's a combination of all those factors. That's my best analysis. What's the best tasting coffee? Outside of my league, my man. Anything black, I'll drink. Lee, that PT refuses to talk to me now because I called him out. All I can say, Lee, is just avoid that crap. Don't get into those battles. Every day I get up and somebody out there is teaching a magic rep range, a magic solution, and I fight it because I know the time it can waste for people. It's probably a blessing. How do you track exercises or progress on exercises that rely on momentum? You have to be consistent in your rep execution. You have to understand that even if you use a little bit of power generation, that is okay. You can't get out of the hole on a squat without power generation. You can't get the bar off the ground on a deadlift without power generation. The traps are extremely strong. Generating power does not mean there's not intense contraction or mechanical stress. You just want consistent reps, and you just track the number of consistent reps. As simple as that. Martin, hey, boss, Team Massive. Glad to have you here. You have a wonderful weekend. Have you ever had scapula winging leading to shoulder impingement? No, that's outside of my pay grade. I have not. I don't know specifically that any clients do that, et cetera, et cetera. Right back at you. I can't wait till we're back in action. Me either. It's one of the only things I think about. Let's get Martin back up to speed. Can't believe Big Paladin Dance was in New York City recently, and we missed the opportunity to turn it into a vlog series called New York PD. Yeah, I need to start knowing when you guys are coming to the States so you can swing by for a brutality session. Protocol for neck building. By the way, the last call for questions, we have 4 questions left. After that, I'll be hopping off. I'm not big into neck training. I'm not going to speak outside of my league. Your neck's going to get big enough just from normal lifting. I've never met an experienced lifter that didn't have a big neck. Big neck comes inherently with sleep. It's inherently tied to sleep apnea. 17-inch neck scientifically has been shown to be kind of that tipping point where you're almost always certain to have sleep apnea. So you're going to generally get a big neck no matter what. I'm not a neck building, neck training guy. I will never be. If you want to get a neck harness and find somebody on the internet that teaches neck training with the neck harness, that would be the way to go. Big John, I'm 42, 21% body fat. I'm fine with how I look and eager to string together solid months of progress. Should I cut first? So, body fat percentage aside, let's look at the old gut. Okay. If you only have a minimal amount of belly fat, generally nothing to be concerned about. If you have a little bit, what my kids used to call a whopper jobber, which is a big amount of belly fat, big old whopper jobber, that means you have a lot of visceral or internal fat in and around your organs. This is the unhealthy stuff. So we have to separate, regardless of what I'm comfortable with. Do I have a whopper jobber, big old bubba belly? If you have a whopper jobber, big old bubba belly, you probably need to knock that down a little bit. Get that visceral internal fat down. You don't need to be a lean, mean, six-pack abs, flexing machine. But if you have any of that, you probably should cut that off and make sure you're at that base. Does that make sense? When should I do good mornings in a full body routine? I'd have to see the structure. It really has to do with the structure and the outline. There's no magic place. It's probably best to do it early on in the first 3 exercises. But if you have a day where there's not a lot of posterior chain or lower back fatigue, you could certainly do it at the end. Boy, does time fly. We're almost 110 minutes in. Keep the questions coming. I'll stay on as long as you. How much body fat percentage and how much should a 5'6" older man weigh to look jacked? Jacked is going to be muscle mass. Okay? If you're skinny fat and you lose fat, you're just going to look unimpressive and not jacked. There's this perception that we can just continue to lose body fat without muscle and we'll look lean and jacked like Athlean X. Well, even Athlean X has a muscle base, even though he's on the smaller end of the spectrum. You have to have probably at least a 10 to 15 pound muscle base to even start looking like him, lean. So that is the cornerstone. The more mass you have, the better you are going to look at at any body fat percentage. If you have 25 pounds of additional mass, you'll look better at 22%, 20%, 18%, 16% than the guy without that mass at that same body fat percentage. Does that make sense? You can have 2 guys at 14% body fat percentage, one with 25 pounds of mass and one that is untrained. Same body fat percentage, 14, 12, doesn't matter. Who's going to look better? So to look jacked, we need the foundation of mass. And it all depends on how much mass you have. If you have a picture, I would be glad to take a look. Aaron, I was doing Smith sculls. Hit 7-8 reps, and my wife called and was mad at me. I feel your pain, my brother. I feel your pain. You probably didn't do anything. Just humor. For like 10 minutes, and I hit 18 reps. What did I do? What do I do with this? The first thing is to understand you're probably capable of a lot more. You were sandbagging it. I love you, Aaron, but we've all been in that sandbag mode. Sometimes when I come back to training after time off, I'll start doing little tricep extensions. And, I just did 3 sets of 12 and they felt hard. And then I'll put on like 90 pounds and do 20 reps. Sandbagging, right? It's not a direct sandbag. It's just you realize you can do more. All right, guys, that's it. We nearly hit 2 hours today. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for being on. I am here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Please come over to Instagram. And I don't play the follower-unfollower game. I'd love to give you a follow on Instagram. You can follow me at Ben the Barman. You can also DM me questions at any time. I'm here to help 100%. I want to see you guys reach your goals no matter what. Please also consider, just if you're curious about coaching, I'm never going to press you. I only want to work with people that want to work with me. But I'm not a check-in once a week coach. I'm with you Monday through Friday. I will give you everything I can, and we will hop on the phone. We'll get things rolling. If you're interested in coaching, check out the coaching tab. Or if you just want a custom workout and some general guidance on your body composition, boom, search custom over there. All right, let me see if we got any more questions before we hop off. Are hammer curls a viable replacement? Not exclusively. They're a good exercise to have in the mix, but it's not something you want to do exclusively or only. If you're going to do 3 or 4 exercises over a week or 2-week block, it's okay to have hammer curls in the mix. All right, guys, have a great weekend for Americanos. My American folks, have a good 3-day weekend. I'll be doing jiu-jitsu tomorrow. I'll be doing legs tonight. I'll be doing arms tomorrow. Let's destroy our goals. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I'll see you soon.
It's not almost over. It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.
Oh, just waiting for the haters. He did 40 reps cheating explosive. Sometimes I just have fun. I think I was in LA Fitness and all they had was, I don't know, 100, 120 pound dumbbell. And sometimes it's just good. Fun. Love you guys.